Chapter 6 In Hot Pursuit. Leaving Prince Azetar behind with the Spider-Woman was not an easy decision to come to. Unfortunately, they had little choice if they wanted to save the prince's life. Until these bandits were dealt with, the black-haired woman would press her advantage. They could have fought her and her spider horde in an attempt to take back the prince, but this would put the prince's life at risk. The safest option, for now, was to play her little game. "Why do you think she wants the bandits out of the forest? Why would she care?" Draxon asked.
"Does not make sense to me either," Adeline replied. "The Shadowlands are a strange place. Perhaps she thinks herself a protector of it," Draxon suggested.
"That would make sense, I suppose," Draxon concurred. "What's the plan if she doesn't turn the prince over?"
"Let's focus on driving the bandits out for now. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it," Adeline pushed, being sure that they did not lose focus from the goal at hand.
"So the first thing we need to do is find out where these bandits are."
"Correct. The spider lady told us to follow the path of the moxie trees. I guess we'll start there," his sister replied.
As they flew above the Shadowlands, being sure to closely follow the moxie tree's path, the look of concern on Adeline's face was evident. Noticing, Draxon placed his hand on her shoulder. Her concern for the prince was all but apparent. "He's going to be okay, sis," he assured her.
"But is he really? Dad gave us this responsibility and we failed him. What if she kills him, sells him to Lord Hargoth?" Adeline frantically asked, worrying aloud.
"We didn't fail him, Adeline. Maybe there's a plus side to all of this," Draxon reasoned.
"How?" Adeline scoffed.
"Well, we don't know where the wizard is, right?" Draxon asked.
"Right.
And we didn't really have a lead before, right?"
"Your point is?" Adeline asked, growing frustrated.
"The spider lady knows these lands. If we remove the bandits, maybe she could tell us where he is."
"Guys!"
Draxon interrupted.
"They are here! There they are!"
Through the trees, a group of bandits could be seen on horseback. Upon seeing the dragon, they began to run. Adeline and Draxon drew their weapons.
"Let's get them!"
Draxon roared. Sweeping down, Draxon drew closer to their foes. In hot pursuit, the group grew closer and closer to their slower opponents. Adeline took aim with her bow, hoping to injure their leader. Wrapped in webbing, and seemingly forgotten by the spiders and their mysterious leader, Azetar wondered what he should do. If he could do anything at all, that is. Tied and wrapped up tightly, his options were limited. Left in a large, hollowed-out tree, his thoughts began to race. What if the spiders ate him? What if the spider lady ate him? What would befall him? Captured by spiders in the Shadowlands, there was no telling what could happen, and that terrified him. "Calm yourself," Azetar spoke aloud to soothe himself. "What would the Stargazers do?" Given their nature, they would not even be in this predicament. The fact that they showed how skilled they were compared to himself was evidence of that fact. He scolded himself for sulking. Stewing in his own inadequacies would not free him from his bonds. Lying in the hollowed-out tree, he concluded his best chance for freedom would come through finding something to cut the webbing. With his hands and feet bound, however, grabbing something to do so was nearly impossible. Then he found a way. Roughly a few feet to his right, a splintered tree had fallen and been dragged inside the other tree, and this offered him hope. If he could roll over to it, he could puncture his bonds and perhaps cut them. Although it would be difficult, there was a potential in cutting himself in the process, but despite this, the risk was worth it. He groaned as he rolled towards the splintered tree. Besides the light rustling of the leaves, no sound was made by his actions. Just another foot, and he would be in position. As he rolled over for the final time, unwelcome visitors stared at him from the grove's entrance. Azetar felt as though his heart was going to leap out of his chest, as he saw one of the woman's spiders looking upon him. Their beady little eyes tracked his every movement. With his plan now doomed to fail, he groaned in aggravation. "Blast it all. Just let me go, you stupid spiders," Azetar griped. Not expecting a reaction from the spiders, let alone a good one, Azetar was beyond surprised when the spiders actually did as he commanded.
More than that, they complied immediately. Crawling over to him, they used their teeth to cut away his bonds. As they did so, they were careful not to harm him in the process. He stood, amazed to what had just happened. His first instinct was to run. His better judgment prohibited him from doing such, however. He was in the heart of the Shadowlands, a place few people knew how to successfully survive in. Knowing this, he needed a way to successfully reunite with his friends, safely, or as close as you could get to safely, in the Shadowlands. Then an idea came to him. If they obeyed his command once, perhaps they would do so again. Composing himself, he thought on his next words carefully. Then, with intent, he spoke. "Spiders, take me to my friends." At first, he thought they would. Initially, they moved to act upon it, but then stopped. Concerned, Azatar was about to command them once more. Then, to his dismay, the spider lady appeared through the wood. Azatar took a step back, his face turning ghostly white. "My powers are greater than yours, young prince. Perhaps with training, yours could be improved." The prince stood frozen in fear. His voice, as well as his courage, had left him. She chuckled at his apparent trepidation. "You're right to fear me, but I'm not going to hurt you. Even if your friends should not succeed, you'll remain unharmed." Azatar breathed a sigh of relief. Then a question came to him. Finding the courage to speak, he asked it. "Why capture me at all, then? Why not ask us for our help?" "Where's the fun in that?" the woman laughed. "How long have you had the tongue?" she continued. "The tongue?" "Yes. What you just used to control my spiders," she clarified. "Well, I guess since 5 minutes ago." "Have you ever felt a special connection to any other type of animal before? Have you ever commanded one?" "No, not like that, anyway," Azatar began. Picking up on something she said, he began a query of his own. "You said you could train me?" "I said nothing of the sort," the woman replied. "But maybe if you prove yourself worthy, I'll consider it." "And how would I prove myself worthy?" Azatar asked. A small, devious grin appeared on the woman's face. He regretted asking. "Come with me," she ordered. "I have something to show you." Chapter 7. Fire and Frost. There were 10 bandits in total. Brandishing curved blades and circular shields, their weapons and attire indicated that they were from the Far East. Most likely they had been banished from their own land, or rather had escaped from it. Craxton swooped down, hoping to catch them by surprise with his frost breath. What the group did not expect was the accuracy of the archers. Arrows flew centimeters away from Craxton's scaly skin. Not wanting to give the archers another chance, he flew up and out of their range. "I think I can get them this time," Craxton spoke, ready for another dive. "Don't," Adeline warned. "It's not worth it. Let's keep following them and form a plan." Complying with Adeline's wishes, despite thinking he could make it, Craxton complied with her orders. Every so often, the bandits would fire an arrow in their direction, but they were too far out to reach. In time, Adeline came up with a plan. "Let's rout them," she suggested. A puzzled look came to Draxon's face. "How?" he asked. "There are only 3 of us." "Craxton, do you think you could push some of those trees down?" Craxton looked unsure. "I could try." "Fly ahead of them," Adeline replied with a smile, "and push them down." "But won't the raven-haired woman get mad with us?" Draxon reasoned. "She wants us to save the forest, not destroy it." We either push a few down to save them all," Adeline warned, "or let the bandits burn the whole forest to the ground." "Do you have a better idea?" Adeline continued. "I could create an ice barrier," Craxton suggested. "Use it to rout them that way, and not destroy the forest in the process." Although a little flustered, Craxton came up with a better idea than she had. She was humble enough to admit when she was wrong. "I suppose you're right," she concurred. "Let's get ahead of them and box them in." Flying swiftly to cut them off, Craxton landed and began to form a wall of ice to catch them. The wall was 10 feet in height and roughly 3 feet thick. After making a large half circle,
Draxon was forced to stop. I can't use any more of my frost breath. I need to catch my breath, Draxon commented. That's okay, Draxon said. We can catch them on the other side of the circle once they go inside of it. Good idea, Adeline said, except then their archers will shoot at us. Not if I scare their horses and make them fall off their mounts, Draxon noted. Then it will be hand-to-hand combat, Draxon added, excited by the idea. Draxon, you're not ready for that kind of fight. Neither am I, Adeline commented. We are, especially with our enemies being so confused after being thrown, and with a dragon on our side, Draxon insisted, resenting his sister's lack of confidence. Adeline sighed. If we die, I'm blaming you, Adeline replied, giving way. Draxon smiled, playfully hitting her shoulder. That's the spirit. Now let's get ready before they arrive. As planned, the bandits from the east ran directly into the barrier of ice. They began to panic, all save their leader, who turned his horse around. He waved his hand and yelled, Mashima! Mashima! Seemingly ordering his men to turn and make haste out of the crescent. As they turned, they were met by their pursuers. Before being able to attack, Draxon swooped his tail. According to plan, the dragon swept the horses off their feet, thereby throwing the riders off their mounts. It was then that Draxon charged forward to do what he did best, meet the enemy head-on. Draxon had no plans of killing, having had the wind taken out of them, as well as being disoriented. They were easy targets. Using the handle of his sword, he knocked 3 of the bandits out before they could even stand. Now, only 4 remained to deal with. Adeline had her bow drawn and ready to fire on anyone who looked too dangerous to handle. So far, Draxon seemed to be up to the task, although all the others were able to get to their feet. They were unprepared for Draxon's skill with the blade. In a flash, he had disarmed one of the bandits, and just as quickly rendered another unconscious. While this happened, a bandit readied his bow to strike Adeline down. Not able to react in time, she feared her end had come. Seeing the danger, Draxon moved quickly towards the enemy archer. With a quick slash from one of his blades, he cut the bowstring just before the arrow launched. With Draxon's guard down, the archer moved to strike him down with a concealed blade on his person. Had it not been for Adeline's quick thinking, Draxon could have been cut down. She fired her arrow and struck the enemy down where he stood. The second-to-last bandit, seeing now that he was outnumbered and outmatched, ran into the woods, fleeing for his life. The final bandit yelled at his man to stand and fight, but there was no fight left in him. Seeing his efforts to keep his man under control were in vain, he turned his attention to his 3 foes. Unlike the others, the leader wielded a staff. The trio's eyes lit up in terror as the bandit's staff lit on fire. Their final opponent was more dangerous than all the others combined. He was a wizard. The raven-haired woman, who had introduced herself as Daedra, had let Azatar into her home. Her cozy, yet slightly eerie home was in the base of a tree. The tree, still living, must have been hundreds of feet high. Unlike the other trees in the forest, it was incredibly large in circumference. Passing through the front door and into her home, Azatar saw, smelled, and heard all manner of things. From bubbling cauldrons to the caw of the blackbird in the corner, it was much noisier than he had anticipated. This way, Prince, she directed, pulling his attention away from the main living room and into a smaller one. Laying on a bed in the center of the next room was an all-too-familiar face, a dreaded face, a face that haunted him. He took a step back in unbelief. No, it can't be. My spiders found him just outside the forest. Apparently he had tried to follow you here all by himself, Daedra informed him, stepping closer to the blue elf on the bed. Alone? Azatar asked. Lord Hogarth is an arrogant elf. Does it really surprise you that he thought he could undertake your assassination by himself? I suppose not, he replied, not sure how to answer. The important thing is, he's here, you're here. He's defenseless, she began, handing him a small knife she had concealed on her person. However, you're not. What? He asked, confused. What do you mean, what?
I'm handing you your enemy on a silver platter, and you don't know what to do? He's your enemy. He killed your father. Take your revenge. Azatar, uncertain, grabbed the knife that was extended to him. He looked down at it, then to the elf. Frozen, he contemplated his next move. What is there to consider, Prince? Kill him. It's what your father would want. Kill him, or I won't teach you how to control your power. Don't you want that? Power? Daedra offered, sweetening the deal. Prince Azatar recalled how his father had died, how he had nearly died himself, how all this madness and the suffering of his people was because of this elf's actions. A more golden opportunity could not have presented itself to end it, to avenge his father's death, to, for once, make him proud. He raised the knife to strike, then dropped it to the floor. I'm not my father, Azatar affirmed. Daedra picked up the knife. Putting it back in its place, she smiled, placing her hand on his shoulder, his eyes open to who really laid on the bed. It was an elf, but not one Azatar could recognize. Looks like the apple fell far from the tree. Good. You mean this was all some sort of trick? Azatar inquired, slightly angered. A test. I wanted to see what you'd do, and you didn't disappoint. Indeed, you are worthy of my teachings.